Before the tornado, life was tough for Michelle. She asked not to use her last name because of an unresolved domestic violence incident a while back. She's supporting a child on her own with a job that pays $11 an hour. Now the tornado is another problem solved.
This is a list so I don't remember the important things.
Don't forget.
Correct. So I get pretty simple grades together.
The list includes things like drink water and eat snacks, things that seem basic but easy to lose track of when there's so much else to do. Michelle was a renter with no insurance, so when she's not at work, she's been making the rounds at tornado relief centers, baby and tow.
Don't eat your shoes, sweetie. It's dirty.
She's slowly re-getting the essentials. A car seat, a pack and play. At one charity booth, a woman hands her a $50 gift card.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Can you sat in whatever way you need to? Baby bed. Out of the pack and play into a baby bed. Step up.
She asks for the group's address to send thank you notes.
One day when I get back on my feet and stuff, I'd like to repay the agencies themselves, so if somebody else needs it, it'll be there.
A few days later, I find Michelle in the shelter late at night, writing those thank you notes. She'd stopped by her old home that day to search for a few last things in the debris. She didn't find anything except some wind-stripped trees. But then she looked again.
One of the trees there has a green leaf on it. That little piece of green just stopped me in my tracks. I looked and was like, it's coming back.
She shook her head and said it again. It's coming back. I'm Chrissy Clark from Marketplace.
You can get a sense of what those two different tornado recoveries look like on our website. It's Marketplace. Coming up,
a little bit of sponsorship on the tube isn't going to go to anybody, and it's going to mean that it keeps their fares low.
the subway stop. Think about it. It will totally work. But first, sell late on a Friday, buy late on a Monday. Boom, there it is. Dow Industrials rebounded 138 points today, about 9/10%. Closed at 15,254. Thanks to a late buying spree, the Nasdaq inched up 9 points, 4%. Ended things at 34.65. The S&P 500 also gained 9 points, about 0.5%. Finished at 16.40. The blue chips rose thanks in part to Merck, and shares added 3.75% after the big pharma company announced positive clinical trial results for skin cancer drug. General Motors and Ford rolled out stock gains of more than 1% apiece after reporting strong monthly auto sales. We told you about Apple's move into streaming music. Yes, well, that news torpedoed Pandora Media. The share sank 10.5% today. Apple itself gained 0.2%. Its trial for allegedly conspiring to fix ebook prices started today. You're listening to Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Progressive Insurance, with insurance for cars, boats, motorcycles, RVs, and commercial vehicles at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and Progressive.com. By Invest Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is hosting this year's G8 Summit. Learn more about the region's business credentials online at G8NI2013.com. And by National Jewish Health in Denver, Colorado, recognized by U.S. News and World Report for their research and treatment of respiratory and related illnesses. We never say never. More at njhealth.org. Song you heard on the show? Find our playlists on marketplace.org. Click on the link for latest songs to listen or buy the music we play. A portion of each purchase goes back to support Marketplace.
Statebook. Here's a look at events coming up Tuesday. The Commerce Department lets us know what the trade deficit was in April. The Department of Agriculture and the Environmental Protection Agency team up for the launch of the U.S. Food Waste Challenge. Food accounts for more than 20% of our landfills. And sex therapist Dr. Ruth Westheimer turns 85. I'm Michelle Philippe.
Marketplace from APM. I'm Connor Wisdom. So you got your graduation speeches, and then you've got your graduation speeches. Depending on the speaker, some are forgettable, some not so much. Over the weekend, Ben Bernanke went back to Princeton to give the baccalaureate address. No hints about when interest rates are going to go up from the Fed chairman or what he's going to do about unemployment. Just a little bit of wisdom.
Life is amazingly unpredictable. Any 22-year-old who thinks they know where they will be in 10 years, much less in 30, is simply lacking in imagination. Look what happened to me. A dozen years ago, I was minding my own business, teaching Economics 101 at Alexander Hall, and thinking of good excuses for avoiding faculty meetings. Then I got a phone call.
And then, as you said, look at him now.
As the Gospel of Luke says, and I'm sure my rabbi will forgive me for quoting an investment in a good cause, from everyone to whom much has been given, much will be required, and from the one to whom much has been entrusted, even more will be demanded. Kind of like grading on the curve.
It was a nice little speech, actually, kind of charming. We've got links to the audio and the text as well as at Marketplace. Rich or poor correlates pretty strongly with how well you do in school, what kind of job you get. It's become known as the achievement gap. Another way to look at that, though, is how those circumstances affect the opportunities that come your way. Prudence Carter teaches at Stanford University, and she's the editor of a new book called Closing the Opportunity Gap. Professor Carter, good to have you with.
Thank you, Kai. It's nice to be here.
Can you give me a sense of what this opportunity gap looks like? Tangible.
The reality is that children are not given the same opportunities in life, and yet we're expecting children, regardless of their backgrounds, to get to the same level of achievement, although they don't have the same access to resources. And there are things we can do. We know what we can do in terms of programs and policies. Unfortunately, we've just been focusing on the outputs, which is how fast do they get to the top rung, and we haven't been focusing on the inputs. And those are the things that we argue in this book that need to be really paid attention to.
Let's say we do get there, not to close this opportunity gap, as you say, but to narrow it sufficiently. Do you know, have you got the numbers on the economic benefit? What would it be? How many more jobs? How much more GDP? Are you guys quantifying it?
Well, we do have a number of economists who have contributed to our volume. And one way they've done it is to let's compare those kids who drop out versus those who go to high school and those who go to college, right? Starting from age 18, we lose upwards of about $160 billion over the course of their lifetime in lost revenue, economic productivity. And then these economists show that we actually lose more than $600 billion socially because of some of the consequences of not having educated them. So yes, there are economic benefits of closing the opportunity gap.
Elected and political appointees in Washington talking about this opportunity gap. My assumption would be their response is, yes, but we have to test, we have to measure this output stuff, and we can't be bothered with the not can't be bothered, that's not fair, but we're less concerned about the input mechanisms than we were. So concerned.
You know, in our economy, we have a very vibrant economy, and we wouldn't expect any of our business makers to just focus on their outputs. They know that the quality of the inputs will actually determine the quality of the output. And similarly in education, we have to think about that for our children as well. If we're just narrowing the focus on these test score metrics, we'll never close the achievement gap.
Prudence Carter is a professor of education and sociology at Stanford University. She's got a new project. She's co-editing a book called Closing the Opportunity Gap, What America Must Do to Give Every Child a Chance. Professor Carter, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, Kai. I appreciate being here.
This feeling. Your flight lands late, and by the time you reach your hotel, you have neither the energy nor the desire to deal with finding a place to eat. So you pick up the phone, you dial 0, and soon enough, an overpriced turkey sandwich and a beer appear at your door. Unless that is you're staying at one of New York City's biggest hotels, the Hilton Midtown is scrapping in-house in-room food order. The Hilton is perhaps the most high-profile property to drop room service, but others aren't far behind. Marketplace's Mark Garrison took a swing by the Hilton to find out how come.
Fresh out of a harrowing cab ride from JFK, Australian visitors Suzette and Ainsley Waldock make an unusual choice to start their first visit to New York. They allowed me into their room to buy them room service. Suzette marvels at the prices.
Ridiculous. Way too expensive.
But hey, Marketplace is paying, so they're up for ordering in while they unpack. We order a turkey club on speakerphone. Another item demands explanation. Cookies and milk.
It would be $20.
I really wanted to know what made it so expensive, but this guy, not much of a salesman. Do you feel it worth $20?
I don't know. That's what the price is.
We still bought them. I offered them some sightseeing tips, and then there's a knock at the door. The cart rolls in, and Ainsley lifts the silver lid.
We've got a turkey club sandwich, that's
A $24 sandwich, to be precise. Tack on 2 surcharges and a nice tip, and that's an $80 lunch. You can just hear Marketplace's accountants grinding their teeth. You might think the hotel is making a killing. No way.
It's very rare, if not impossible, for hotels to produce revenue or in terms of room service.
UNLV Hotel Administration Professor Mehmet Erdem says hotels typically lose money keeping a full kitchen and waitstaff on standby. That's the key reason hotels are killing room service, though Hilton says it's because not enough customers want it. That means the Waldocks will be among the last to sample the hotel's expensive cookies and milk.
Have anything that you want because there's way too much here for us to eat.
In New York, with the priciest oatmeal raisin cookie of my life, I'm Mark Garrison for Marketplace.
Here's a lesson for local politicians everywhere who are looking everywhere for new sources of revenue. Officials in London have a new plan for the Tube, that's London's subway. They're suggesting station sponsorships as a way to avoid fare increases. Big corporations with big brands would bid for the right to adopt and rename stations. Thus, Oxford Circus might become Nike, Hyde Park Corner could morph into Hewlett-Packard. But as Marketplace's Stephen Beard reports from London, change is hard.
That's the warning that tube passengers hear every day as they step across the gap between the train door and the platform. But today, the warning has a deeper meaning. The tube faces a widening deficit. Fares are going to have to rise. London politician Andrew Boss says there is a way out.
a little bit of sponsorship on the tube isn't going to hurt anybody, and it's going to mean that it keeps their fares low.
Many people say it's got nutritional value, so I went to Dr. Rock to see if that is true.
Kid, little 10-year-old kid running around, and he was entertaining everybody, and his name was Sit Down. Yeah. Or that's what his mom kept calling him, I don't know. And he had two talents that he was entertaining everybody with. He could impersonate a screech monkey, and he could eat a styrofoam cup, which I thought was pretty cool, right? So he's running around and he's annoying everybody. At one point, the old guy just nudged him. He goes, "Look at that kid over there. We weren't allowed to do that when I was young." You know, it's like, sir, they didn't even have styrofoam cups back then. About 30 minutes later, the nurse comes out and she goes, "Number 7? I'm number 47, okay?" So I tell you this, all the story, because 2.5 hours later, I'm sitting there, I'm sweat's dripping off my face, I'm shaking, I'm getting to the point where, I don't know if you've ever been that sick, but where you think to yourself, well, if I die, I would feel so much better, right? And I'm pulling out my Bible, I'm, cramming for a final, and I'm reading it, and I just want to get in there. And about 2.5 hours later, the nurse comes out, and she goes, "Number 34. And the kid, sit down, and he's running around, he goes, "Oh, hold on, that's me." And he pulls out the number, and then he starts that little kid taunt, where when you're a kid, you have something everybody else wants. He's running around, he's going, "I'm 34, I'm going through the door. Who's 38? You'll have to wait." And he's annoying everybody, and he gets to me, and he stands right in front of me, he stops, and he looks, and I'm just reading my Bible, I don't even look up, and he goes, "Hey, that's the Bible." And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Are you a Christian?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Me too." So I'm like, "Oh, great, I have to share heaven with this kid too. Great." And nothing against the kid, I just has some earplugs and a lot of styrofoam cups, right? And he's standing there, and he's just staring at me, and I wanted to go, why do you want, why don't you go? And he's standing there, and he takes a step off, and he turns around, and he goes, you look really bad. And I was like, yeah, I know, I'm sick. And he goes, yeah, wow. And he takes one more step away, and he stops, and he turns around,